This is your boy DJ Leon D, and on this channel we talk about travel, money, and lots of cooking. Three things I know quite a bit about. I'm not an expert at anything. Nope, not an expert. I've just been around a long time and know a lot. Let's get it on. Hey family, this is your boy DJ Leon D. I got to tell you something, I cook a lot of meat, But I'm going to tell you what really pisses me off right now. Brisket. Yeah, brisket. In this video, you're going to see me trimming the brisket. I bought an 18-pound brisket. I might have got 7 or 8 pounds out of it after I smoked it and after I smoked it and after I trimmed it. It is just so much fat on briskets nowadays. I don't care where you go. You go to Costco, you go to Sam's Club. I don't care where you go. It's just a lot of fat on brisket. And by the time you smoke it and you render down the fat and you trim it, you ain't really got a lot left. Now let's do some math. You buy a brisket, it's $4.50. It's $4.50 a pound. It's 18 pounds. So by the time you really get done with it, you paying about $15 a pound. By the time you get done with it, and I don't think these stores are getting very good cuts of brisket. Because, see, people want to know why brisket costs so much at Mission Barbecue. Because Mission Barbecue charging you for the pre-cooked weight. Because they know once you get done with it, you ain't got shit left. You ain't got nothing left. It's just the way it is. And it's frustrating because it seems like over the last 4 or 5 years, these stores are trying to maintain a price point. Now, everything just went up. I don't normally complain about what things cost. It cost is what it's going to be, because everybody has to make a wage sometime. And in the meat, in the meat industry, you paying people decent wages, but it's just that when you go buy it and you trim it, you're like, I can't believe all this came off just that piece of brisket. Now you may be out in Texas or Nebraska or wherever, and you might be getting your brisket at $2.99 a pound, which is fine. I'm on the East Coast. They pay more. They charge you more. It is what it is. But damn, by the time you get done, brisket is one of the things that I just got to take off my list of foods to buy. I like a good cut of beef. But brisket, when you think about you paying $15 a pound, you're paying ribeye prices. You're paying above ribeye prices. And ribeye they don't have any of the fat that you're going to get on a brisket. No, they don't have any of the fat you're going to get on a brisket. It makes you want to have to go and buy ribs more often. But it's just that you're paying ribeye, you're paying, beef prices in general. It used to be certain cuts of meat was cheaper than other cuts of meat on beef. Nah, when you trim off the fat and everything else, you're paying almost the same thing. And you can't find beef ribs around here. Now I see myself doing a lot of thinking about what meats I want to cook this summer. And I generally buy about 6 or 7 briskets during the summer, from usually late April to Labor Day. I usually do a brisket every other week. Not anymore. And by the time you divvy it up, it don't last very long either. So brisket is one of the things that I'm just not going to buy it anymore. I just don't see the value in it. It's not even the time, because with a Traeger you can put it on and walk away and you're good to go. It's not even the time anymore. You burn a lot of pellets, and I can care less about prices. What I care about, do I get value for the price I paid? And everybody got a price point. Everybody got a price point. And with brisket, that's the one meat. It's kind of almost like oxtails. The prices of oxtails going crazy. But that's the one meat I just don't see the value in it anymore. Now, I love some good oxtails. I love some good brisket. But you just, I did a brisket the other day, and the video showing me trimming the brisket, getting everything ready. The value is just not there. I looked at my last 3 or 4 videos when I did myself doing briskets, and I just don't see it there. And everybody likes brisket, but nobody likes to cook a brisket because it's a lot of work. The trimming part, you go through a lot of seasoning. I'm like, just give me a steak, make it easy. So I did a tomahawk steak right along with the brisket. I did tomahawk steak right along with the brisket. And I'm going to tell you, the tomahawk steak costs a lot more per pound, but it's definitely worth it. Because, by the time the fat had rendered, I still had like 80% of the tomahawk steak left. By the time the brisket rendered, I might have had, probably about 60% left. It's just a lot of work, and you get nothing at the end of the day. You got to ask yourself, what the hell I bought this brisket for? I ain't got nothing left to show. And not only that, the stores now, they sell them flats, the brisket flat, for like $10 a pound. Now, don't get me wrong. Generally, you buy just a flat, most of the fat is gone because they trim it off. But it just seems like a lot of money for something so small. In briskets, like I said, $4.50 to $5 a pound. You don't get very much, because now I've seen briskets going for $100, and you're not getting 20 pounds. I generally weigh my food after I bring it home to see if the weight is accurate. And for the most part, Costco and Sam's Club and a couple other places or a butcher is pretty accurate. I went to the store the other day to buy my brisket, and the lady wanted a brisket, and she asked the guy to trim the brisket for her. And she was an older lady, and she probably go home and screw it up and make corned beef out of it. Who knows? But she was an older lady, and she thought that he was going to charge her after he trimmed the brisket by weight. I'm like, no. That's stupid. That's why when you buy frozen foods, they say, here go the weight frozen, not after you thaw it out and after you cook it. No one in their right mind does that. Does that. That's just stupid. But it's just that some people like brisket a lot, and and nothing wrong with that, because I like it a lot too. I just don't like spending that kind of money and looking at the results when I finish. I just don't like that. And then and brisket got a lot of fat internally, so you almost tell yourself it's worth it just buying the flat. Just buying the flat, you spend a lot more money per pound, but you got a lot less fat to deal with, and basically all you got left is just meat, edible meat. So that's just one of those things that you yourself just got to figure it all out. And a lot of people say, oh, a brisket is the best cut. No, it's not. It's a good cut for slow smoking. That's what it's good for. A tomahawk, is the same way. Matter of fact, my tomahawk had a little more fat on it than I like. And these butchers are leaving a lot of fat on these cuts of meat because it's more weight and they can charge you more. Even though they know that you can't eat it or you're not going to eat that. They know all that. It's just that nowadays you're getting cheated. And you're getting cheated when you look at the brisket. And I said I'm not buying any more briskets this whole year. But I already know tonight when I go to Costco get some water, I'm gonna look at the brisket. I'm not gonna buy any because not anywhere from $85 to $100 for a cut of brisket. That's not really gonna be a lot when you finish. It just isn't worth the time. I didn't have enough brisket to make even burn ends, and normally when I cook a brisket, I always make burn ends. Not this time. I'm like, hell no, this is way too much money. To make burn ends, and I like burn ends. But I'm almost tempted to make the whole brisket just burn ends. By the time you get through cooking the brisket and rendering it fat, that's all you got enough for, is just burn ends. So my whole point of this, brisket is it overrated? Yeah. When you look at the price point and you look at what you got left, yeah, it's overrated. There's some other meats that I'm going to cook this year. And speaking of, I made pulled pork yesterday. Saturday. I made pulled pork. But there's some other meats I'm going to try out. So that's where I am right now with brisket. I'm frustrated. And it seems like every year you're getting less and less for what you're paying for. You're getting a lot less. And, I understand that, if it goes up 10 or 15 cents a pound, 20 cents a pound, it's not going to be a game changer. But now I remember when I used to go in there for $60, I can get 18 pounds of brisket. I get an 18-pound brisket, for $60. Now the same 18 pound cost me $90. And then they add taxes onto it. You're like, what the hell happened here? This didn't go the way I had to figure it out. But I when I do brisket, I do it because normally it's a special holiday, like one of the big ones, Memorial Day, 4th of July, June 10th, Labor Day. Normally it's one of those kind of days. Now those days you're having hot dogs and ribs and chicken. That's what you're gonna have. You're not having any other stuff. So that's what you're gonna get now. And I like a good barbecue feast. I like a good feast. And I thought about buying a couple of them to put on this new smoker I'm gonna buy. Nah. I'm doing hot dogs, hamburgers, ribs, chicken, probably pulled pork. Pulled pork is gonna get worth the money nowadays. Even though the price of pork's going up a little bit. But the amount you get left over, it's incredible. It's incredible. Especially after looking at my brisket, how it came out. I was like, this ain't the way I want this to be. And, and people, people talk about, these briskets and stuff, how good they can do them. I can smoke the hell out of a brisket. I ain't got no problem at all doing it. I just don't like what I got left when I finish versus what I started with. These videos are going to show you that. All the white coming off is just pure fat. And I like to trim my brisket down. I like to trim mine down to about a 1/4 inch left, on the whole brisket. And I like to be able to season it right and have the season penetrate the brisket. Even though, when you season food, you already know that if you flip food and stuff, when you season food or you season it, then you flip it, you're going to lose at least half of the seasoning off it. That's why I put a lot of seasoning on mine. I'm like, I'm going to lose half, but I still want to taste all the stuff, But, if you think about it, brisket, some people, damn near everybody, they don't trim it right. Because I see some people and I'm like, look at all that fat in the middle. In the middle of it, all I see is fat. And then when you look at your grease tray, when you finish, it's all you're going to see. It's fat. It is what it is. But at the same time, when brisket is done right, it's just a nice taste piece of meat. It's just that kind of piece of meat. You're like, oh, I love it. Gotta have some more. But over the last few years, I've been doing more beef ribs and ribeye on the smoker. And tomahawks. I like a good tomahawk on the smoker too. I do like that. So my whole point of this video is that how do you feel about buying brisket at today's point? And, the minute you crank up to 300 degrees, how do you feel? And I very seldom go above 250. Depends on what kind of time constraints I'm under. But you are going to get ripped off. It ain't worth it. Matter of fact, a lot of stores don't even sell briskets over 10 pounds because, they know when you go home, you got to weigh it, or you should weigh it anyway. I don't trust stores, period. When they charge per pound, they're charging you per pound. I'm talking about with the plastic and everything. And I got scales everywhere around here. I probably got about 4 scales, and I like to weigh my meat because when you're paying $100 for a piece of meat, you want to make sure you got your money's worth, especially when you're paying $100 for it. And brisket is one of those things that because it's a large piece of meat, it's easy to have the incorrect weight on it. Small pieces of meat, no. Everybody can look and say that's not 8 ounces. But when you're talking 18 to 22 pounds, anybody can look and say that's not right. You may feel heavy, but that's not right. Because can you really tell the difference between 16 pounds and 17 and a half just by picking it up? No. A hot dog, you go there, you say, okay, I know I need 10 hot dogs. You get 10 hot dogs, you say, okay, this is a half pound or whatever, or this is a full pound. Brisket is one of those big old pieces of meat that it can easily be misconstrued weight-wise. So my advice is always weigh your meat. Or trust the stores. It's your choice. Trust the stores. I don't. There are so many YouTube videos and so many things out here that tell you how meat is, especially Walmart. Everything, when a butcher makes a mistake on weight, it's never in your favor. It's never in your favor. It's always in the store's favor. Always. And if you don't believe me, just weigh your stuff. It's like buying a bag of chips. They say 2 ounces. And then if you look at it real close, you only get like 6 chips because the other is just air. But my point is, when you're out there and you're doing things and you're weighing things, make sure you weigh it the way it should be weighed. Just put it on a scale. The price of meat these days, you gotta weigh things. But brisket, one of the things that weigh it before you cook it, and then weigh it after you cut it up, or after you take off the smoker. And look at the difference, how much you're throwing away. You look at how much you're throwing away. You're throwing away quite a bit. And so when you look at per pound, I tend to look at my brisket, how many pounds I got left after the fact, and what did I pay for it. When I know I got 7-8 pounds left from an 18-pound brisket, Jesus Christ, I had to go look at the video to see what am I trimming off the brisket that I should leave on the brisket. But I'm not into biting in a big old piece of fat in my mouth. Some people don't mind that. Like, you go down south, they eat fat like it's no big deal. That's just part of their culture. That's not how we do it up north. And when I go down south, I'll feed you fat all day long if you're buying it. If I'm buying it, that's not how I'm going to do it. That's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the proper way. I'm going to make sure that I trim it, because I've seen people take brisket right out of the bag. But, I guess it depends on where you're at. I've seen people take it right out of the bag and just throw it on the smoker. That's not me. That's not me. I wash all my meat, and this is ground meat. I wash all my meat before I season it. I wash it, and sometimes I'll paper towel dry it. I do that before I even season it. Because why are you going to season wet meat that you don't washed off? You might as well just throw the seasoning in the trash can before you even start, because that's what you're doing. That's just what you're doing. But my point is, brisket to me no longer holds the value that it used to hold. It don't hold its status in my hierarchy of meats. And it's not because it is expensive. It's because you're just paying a way lot more than what you think you're paying. Look at how much it costs, and look at how much per pound, and then look at how much it costs, and see how many pounds you got left after you smoke it. That'll give you the real cost of what a brisket costs. It's not someone just stamping $2.99 or $5.99 or $4.50 on the brisket. No. That's not how you calculate the cost of brisket. If you calculate it wrong, you're gonna sit and think, "Oh, I got a good deal." No, that $4.50 really is $9, if not more, per pound. I know people say, "Well, you trim too much fat off." I didn't buy the brisket for the fat. That's the throwaway part. Get to the dogs. I bought it for the meat I'm going to end up with. That's why I buy a brisket. And I know some of you don't believe in that because you're not smart. But those who, like me, everything has a price point in my life. Can I afford it? No, because that's ignorant. Do I have money to buy it? Yes. But I'm not paying for ignorance. So when you look at your brisket, look at how much you got left after you cook it. And you have a different perspective on that brisket. It just changes everything. But I think any meat does that. I think all meats do that. The more I go into stores and butcher shops and I look at meat, I'm always thinking, dang, is this really worth it? This is not worth anything like I thought it was. It was worth it before I cooked it and see what I had left. Oh, it was worth it. But once I finished, it wasn't worth it. And at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. After you cook it, is it worth it? Not before. Because it's fun trimming it. I have no problem with that at all. It's fun trimming the brisket, getting it ready. All this stuff's fun. All this is a lot of fun. Taking pictures. Oh yeah, all that's fun. But the minute you say, I want to give 4 people a pound each, the entire damn brisket's gone. You're like, wow, I started off with a big old brisket, did a lot of work. I ain't got nothing left. Especially if you're going to give something to grown kids or your friends or whoever you think you like or whoever you think likes you. When you say I'm going to share, the whole world just changes for you. I'm like, this is not what I had in mind. And then you start thinking how much work and time and love you put into it. And then you see what you got left and you're like, this wasn't worth my damn time. And damn sure ain't worth my damn money. No, not at all. That's why when I see people going there for Jewish holidays and they're getting corned beef and all this and all that, I'm thinking, wow, they got a lot of money to throw away, because that's how I feel. I done seen a lot of money I throw away. I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is not good at all. So Just think about brisket. I'm not saying the other meats, just brisket. Because the rest of them, I still know they're worth the value. I already know that. But brisket, to me, it's just done taken off. Matter of fact, most cuts of beef are just going crazy. But the tomahawk, I still love a good tomahawk. Because I can get 3 or 4 meals, for myself. And plus, tomahawks is a good cut of meat that you don't lose a lot of it. But brisket, out of all the beef I cook, I must lose by far the most. I know I lose by far the most amount of meat versus starting versus ending is when I cook a brisket. The comparison is not there. When I cook a brisket, I know by far I'm gonna lose a lot of that meat because it's not meat; it's just fat. And some people are gonna eat it like it's like a dessert, but I know for me, it's just throwing money away. So that's how it works with brisket. Look at how much you got left after you. Yeah, brisket is something that you don't experiment with. It's definitely not a beginner's meat because of the work it takes to make a good brisket. It's definitely not a meat you just give away. You got to make sure that whoever it is you're giving it to appreciates it, and know all the work that goes into making a brisket for them. And also, the thing is that with brisket, you can't put it in the same category as a hot dog like a lot of people do. A hot dog, you can use that to season your grill or whatever you want to do. I have a specially dedicated smoker just for brisket, and I put all my brisket to a certain way. But I'm going to get rid of that special usage from that smoker because I'm not buying brisket anymore, at least this year and probably next year because prices don't go down. Now, when I'm going to tell you how I make prices go down a lot living up in the Northeast, is that how I make things go down is simple. I go down south and buy the meat. I take my cooler and I bring it back up, and I bring it back up with me because food down there seems to be cheaper, at least from when I go into the same stores, Sam's Club versus Sam's Club, Costco versus Costco. I go into the same store and I go to butchers down there as well, and the meat is cheaper down there than it is up here. Matter of fact, it was cheaper in California too, which kind of shocked me, the meats and stuff. But in the Northeast, we got unions and we got people who got higher wages and stuff. So that's why the meat is cheaper and stuff. But so that's how I make my price go down. But no matter what you do, you're going to give away, you're going to burn off and trim off and cut off a lot of your brisket. And I had a friend, he bought a 20-pound brisket. He took off like 4 pounds. And when I looked at it, I looked at it before he smoked it. He had fat, like I could never have that much fat on anything I'm cooking. He had a lot of fat still on it. But this is your boy DJ Leon D telling you about me not buying any more brisket this year. Peace out.